Hey everyone, welcome back to Keto Krime. As promised, more on the Daybell information that was dropped over the last week. I've also been trying to keep up with Theranos case, so it has been quite eventful around here, as well as with Halloween, 31 Days of Halloween. I hope you're enjoying it. I am. Looks like we'll have approximately very close to 20 videos by the time Halloween is over, 31 Days of Halloween is over. I really appreciate all the comments and all the new stuff that I'm doing. But today we're going to take a look at Melanie Gibb's interview with Chandler, Arizona, or Phoenix area police about Charles Vallow that was just released. I will also be taking a look at Jason Miles as well and reacting to that later. But for now, just Melanie Gibb. So with that being said, let's dive in. If you're new here, welcome. And if you want to help support the channel, links to my membership, you can give a tip, my Patreon's all down below. But the most important thing that you can do for the channel is just like, comment, share, subscribe. And I really appreciate it. I have the best community on YouTube, barring none. And with that being said, let's dive in.
I sure like the cut of your gibberish.
Cohen doodly
Diddly
diddly,
oodly,
diddly
oodly,
doodly,
oodly,
noodly doodly
diddly
diddly
oodly,
doodly, check
loony
the
oodly,
diddly daddler Atner,
maple
noodly
idly,
doodly diddly
diddly
doodly.
oodly.
Say, would you like to puff on a reeferino? It's legal here.
They warned me Satan would be attractive. Let's go.
You know why the police officer doesn't remember it? Because he knows he knows it's as foolish as everyone else thinks it is. Jeez, Melanie, how can you do this with a straight face? Oh, you're a sociopath.
Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this.
By and large, I'm going to pull a Dr. Grande here. I am not a licensed mental health person, so I'm not diagnosing her. I'm just poking straight fun at her. So just remember that, please.
Okay. All right. So she's kind of talking to the girls, and they're all kind of talking about what's going on. And she's like, I don't know what we're supposed to do about this. How do we get, how do I do this? I don't understand what this. So nobody has any information about Caspian at this point. And then Christina, she starts talking about something. This was all beyond me because I didn't do the energy work. I mean, I had energy work done to me before, but I don't know how to do it. And I don't know if Christina knew about it or not. I'm not sure. But Christina started talking about, man, I don't know how she brought it up now. It's been a long time for me to remember. I don't know how they start talking about it, but somehow they start talking about casting out somehow. And then they all started joining in. I was listening because I didn't have any comment to make to it. I was like, I don't know. And then they were trying to figure out, she was trying to help solve the problem. Like, if this Ned is in him, how do we get him out? Or I don't even know if that was the right word at the time, get him out. But
can I stop real quick?
Yeah.
Remind me how she knew that was Ned.
Okay, that was.
Because she watched an episode of The Freaking Simpson and came up with a name. That's how she knows. Maybe she can coax him out with a Twinkie Winkie or something.
Remember when Chad made the phone call? Lori and I were in her house, one of her houses she lived in. Not the last house, but the one prior to the last one. Because I remember where I was at certain times, so I remember the house. Anyway, so I remember she was coming in the door. It seemed like we just did a podcast with a couple of men. So we just did that podcast. They left. And Chad calls and says, hey, I want to let you know that I did some research and figured out that this Ned Oh, it's been a while since I thought about this.
Just say Flanders. Because what you're talking about is about as real as Ned Flanders is.
Ned,
That's what I'm
Ned,
talking about.
yeah, you're forgetting details. It's been 2 years, right? Or something like that.
I just look at her whole attitude, just the body language. She's like, oh, I'm the innocent one in this. I'm just here to provide detail. And I'm sure she's been cut a deal at this point. But still, just, I didn't think she could piss me off any more than she already has. I don't think she had anything to do with any of the deaths, but I think she could have come forward a lot sooner and prevented some of them. That is my major issue with Miss Gibb here.
So yeah, Schneider, thank you. And Ned Schneider is in.
Ned Schneider. Schneider. Where did they get these names? Were they watching one day at a time as well? I mean, good Lord, where do these people get this stuff? This is crazy town.
And she was taken back a little bit because it was a new concept for her. She didn't know about this could happen. So this was introduced from Chad. Absolutely 100% sure of that. Okay. So then she was ruminating over that idea for a while. They were talking.
How are you 100% sure of that? That was introduced by Chad to her.
Because I'm watching them talk on the phone, and after that conversation, she shares with me, this is what Chad just shared with me.
All right.
And so she didn't look like she made it up because she had never talked that way before. She never said anything like, hey.
Melanie, when in life do people sit around and talk about people that have possessed other people? When is that normal conversation? Of course she made it up.
There's an evil spirit, and that never occurred to her. So when she first told me, I could tell she was like trying to absorb it. It looked like it was new for her. And so that's where it came from. And so I'm sure they had a lot of conversations, which I wasn't privy to. So then when she came together in January with all these girls.
You know, I would rather walk on my hands than criticize. Right. And I know I'm no prize. But Melanie looks like a bad paint job on an 84 Ford Escort. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying.
She was talking about this problem she had about this Ned person now coming in. And she said that her reasoning for that was that Satan was breaking eternal law, and that he could now do this, like he had some kind of power to do this. And so now these evil spirits were able to get into these bodies. So if we use you as an example, Ron is no longer Ron, he's, Phil. And Phil comes in and he is right. Now, I'm really dealing with Phil. I'm not really dealing with Ron anymore.
Because Ron's gone.
Ron's gone. He went to the spirit world or whatever, someplace.
So I guess their assertion is that when somebody goes dark, they've died and somebody has taken over their body. So it's kind of like, I don't know, that old show Voyagers where they can jump from one point to the other, sort of. And it makes you wonder, did these two officers take a bet on, I have a pool with the entire police department about just how high the crazy dial would go in this interview and who wins?
That's right. And so, anyway, as we talked around the girl, they were trying to figure out, well, how do we do this? How do we get this spirit out? So they sat there and talked about it. And a lot of the wording that they used, which I can't recall all of it, but it had to do with features that they learned from energy work. Different weapons and different stones or different things that they had learned through a spiritual means, talking about, hey, and they came up with this stuff. I did not come up with it because I didn't even know what to say about any of it.
Did they come up with it, or did Lori assign them something?
No, at first they talked about it as a group. They were like, well, what can we do? And it seemed like Christina started bringing it out first, actually. She's the one that, and I'm trying to remember the words, but I can't really remember what she said.
So it sounds like you had Melanie and Lori in there with their fringe LDS crazy that they've gotten from Chad Daybell and probably David Warwick, because I've listened to one of his speeches and he believes in the same horseshit. But combined with 𝐷𝐢𝐿𝐼𝐴 and I guess this Christina's new age tomfoolery, and this is where all this is coming from, I suppose.
I just remember, she's like, I remember her sitting down with her one day and go, what can we do to help you, Lori? She was sincere, and I was thinking, I have no idea. I don't know what that looks like.
So she's trying to make it out like this was not Lori's idea. This was an idea that was foreign to her, and she was shocked. I call absolute BS on that.
And so anyway, they started talking and getting different ideas, and so she was told that she had this priesthood power. Now that Moroni gave it to her in the temple, she suddenly had this priesthood power. Right. That women were now getting it, because you know that they don't have it in church, right?
Do you find that odd?
Yeah, everything's odd. But at the same time,
you don't find that odd? Oh my goodness.
Because I was on this, so I had listened to some podcasts she had learned. So it wasn't super odd for a person that had listened to Julie Rowe or Mike Stroud, because they were talking.
Who is Mike Stroud? I guess I need to investigate, so maybe this crazy goes a lot further than I think it does.
Talking about how to, now if you go back and listen to those two, she doesn't come up with this stuff herself. This has been coming up by other people, okay?
Well, right, and I know that the big picture, it's all a little weird, but when you hear, because, you know, you're LDS,
yeah.
When you hear something as in Moroni appeared to her in the temple and gave her priesthood powers, what did you think about that?
Well, let me back up to when I first met her to help you understand how I got involved with her. You know, Jason now's the one that introduced me.
Please do.
He met her in the temple.
Please do.
Hey, there's like-minded people that are spiritual, da-da-da. Here's Melly's information. So she meets me, and she hears me talking a little bit, because I'm doing something for a steak event. It was really normal and good, and, you know, had to do it.
Elevation. It was normal. What I was doing before I met Lori was normal. I was normal.
You know, like natural preparedness kind of things, you know, something that we all can learn and enjoy. Anyway, afterwards, she's in the back with Melanie. And then I came out, and then she came out, and Melanie was still in there because there was other classes going on. And she was just so excited to meet me. And she was like, you know, she's talking about people she knew, like Mike Stroud, or not knew, but knew of from podcasts, and Julie Rowe, and her change of heart. And I said, well, I've been changed to Christ, and my experience is a normal experience.
No, it's not. I read your book. Nothing about your experience is normal. Don't bullshit these officers.
Experience that somebody would have, but she was like mirroring me, and I was like, I think she's mirroring me, because I didn't know that then. I didn't know her, so I would have no way of knowing. But anyway, she was like, oh, I've been changed by Christ. And I said, well, I have too. And it was in a more significant way than maybe what I experienced at church. It was a beautiful experience that I had. And so, but there was nothing odd about it. It was just beautiful, you know? And so she said that she had the same, and she was super excited. And then she said, well, I said, you must have been through a really, you know, a lot of challenges in your life to be able to have these experiences. She goes, well, she says, I've had some special experiences with the Lord in the temple. And she might have said Moroni at the time, too. She might have. I can't remember if that was the next time I saw her or not. And I was like, wow, what have you been through? And she's like, well, you know, my kid was raped by her father, and who would have known that probably is a lie. But anyway, she was...
Probably. And I think as far as I know, she also had Alex beat Mr. Ryan up over that, as Joseph Ryan up over that as well, but probably a lie. Probably. Since, 80% of what comes out of Lori's mouth is a lie.
Bringing a story about all her trials, and they sounded genuine to me. I did not think she would. I don't think people are manipulating. That's one of my weaknesses. I don't manipulate. I don't know how to. So I was so foreign to it that I was like, oh, she can't be lying to me. She sounds just like me. As far as my testimony of Christ. Now, not all the crazy stuff, but just that normal kind of sisterly bond that you would have.
I love it how she just keeps trying to distance herself. Lori was crazy. 𝐷𝐢𝐿𝐼𝐴 was crazy. Christina was crazy. I wasn't crazy. I'm the good one here.
Somebody in church. So then she tells me, well, because we had listened to Mike Stroud, he talked about 144,000 and about how people are going to be called to help be instruments in God's hands of bringing people together, like the lost tribes and different things in the last days. And so she says, well, I've had these experiences, and I
Police officer's about to start playing Candy Crush. He is that tapped out on this.
know that I'm part of the 144,000. The Lord sealed me his in the temple kind of thing. And I didn't necessarily disbelieve it. It wasn't a new thought for me because I had listened to different podcasters talk about some of their experiences, and I didn't think that they were lying either because they sounded like it matched Mormon doctrine. All of it did. Because I'd read the scriptures a lot, and I thought, well, I know about these things, but somebody's actually having them. And so, but, people can have real experiences, but somebody can take that and act like that as their own.
Sure.
And I think that's what she did. She took some information that could or couldn't have been true. I don't know if the guy had it or if he was deceived. I don't know that personally. But anyway, she learned a lot about, and Julie Rowe, they talked about.
You may not be able to see him because I've got him kind of out of screen, but the officer on our left, on your left, if you're watching this, is like totally checked out. He is staring at a spot on the wall, or perhaps that blue water bottle. And he's just absolutely motionless. He is absolutely just checked out.
Casting out. They talked about when evil spirits put your arm to the square, you cast out, you use, and then talked about love is your most powerful weapon, and different weapons. He would say different weapons. I don't know if he described them, but he just talked about love as the most powerful weapon we can use against the adversary. So I don't know. Maybe she took that, and then she took Julie Rowe's freaked out stuff, but she's whacked. But she was heavily into the energy work, and a lot of these things were
Well, it takes one to know one, Melanie.
like coming through all these weapons and different things and evil spirits around you. So I remember one time she told me when she was in Hawaii, before I ever met her, so this was when she was living there, she recalled a moment. She goes, I remember, Melanie, I woke up, an angel woke me up and said, you need to email Julie Rowe and tell her that she's a true servant. And I was thinking, wow, maybe Julie, because I didn't think Lori was lying to me. I thought she was really enlightened. And anyway, she believed in
That
this.
was mistake number one.
Anyway, she said she finally figured, she said, I can't even email, or I don't do Facebook. She's like, I just finally read the back of the book, had the email on it, and just said, you are a servant, and that's it. And she just said, Lori, and that's all she said. She sent off and went back to bed. So I was thinking, wow, okay. And so, so when her and I met that day, she's like, I know that Moroni, she must have told me about Moroni, or he was a savior. I know that he's called me to be part of that 144,000 to help other women. I'm to gather other women, something like that, and help them be part of the gathering kind of thing, okay? So her and I go to the temple. We go to the Phoenix temple because I remember the Gilbert temple was closed. So we're going in there. This is, if you're LDS, you're going to be surprised by this. This is where the deception really began. I go into the temple, and I'm going in the dressing room. We're getting our white clothes on, and she is in the dressing stall. And I come out and I stand behind. They have an arch window in the Phoenix temple, right in the women's room. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I get this like heat all over my head, and I'm like, "What's that?" So I said, "Lori." She comes out and said,
That's the wiring shorting out.
"Feel my head," and she goes, "Oh, it's happening." And I was like, "Yeah, it's really hot on top of." I didn't have a fever. Nowhere else on my body was hot, and it wasn't because the sun was coming through. It was really like this heat. And it lasted for, I don't know, like a minute or two. And she's like, "Wow, it's happening." I'm thinking, "Wow, that's pretty awesome." I'm thinking that's good. And so anyway, we go into a couple of different rooms. I don't want to share too much because it's the temple. Right. But anyway, she thinks that she has the power to ordain me at that point to be part of this 144,000. And so she says a little prayer. That's her thing, her little prayers. And
did she say where she got the keys to ordain you?
Yeah, from the Lord himself and from Moroni herself in the temple, in the.
Excuse me, then, Melanie. Why didn't you just break all contact with her at that point? If you thought all this was so crazy, why didn't you? Because you believed it too, or you wanted to believe it, and you thought you were more exalted than you were. You wanted to be more exalted than you were, and so you stayed with it. You stayed with it until the heat got too much, and you got out, and now you're backflipping because you're a backstabbing non-reporting crazy to the police. You didn't report it to the police because you're just as deluded as they were, and you could have saved at least Tylee and JJ. You could have, and that you're gonna have to live with that. You're gonna have to live with that.
Initiatories in a certain location, initiatories, and the interesting thing, I told this to Rob, the same place that Sulema said she saw the Lord was the same place he said. And I was like, how did that happen where she said the same place? And he goes, well, Melanie, people can have some psychological word. I don't remember what he called it. So some of the psychological word that she had.
Like deja vu. What? So either they all had these similar experiences or they're all lying. You're talking as if you knew they were lying and crazy from day one, but yet you stayed in the freaking cult and you let innocent people die.
Had this experience, and I was like, well, I never had anything like that. So I don't have the experience they do because I don't have visionary experiences. That's not me. That's not my gift. So I just assumed that
Yeah, you have the gift of bullshit.
because they had them, they knew more than me. Well, if they can see that, I can't see it. Maybe I don't doubt that people can have gifts like that. I'm very much a believer in that. So that was a bit on the odd side that happened to me in the temple. And I've asked other people that work in the temple and different things. They said, well, they can bring Satan in with them. I'm like,
Instead of touched by an angel, she was touched by a demon.
yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
So that was sad. So that's where my confidence came from with her, because I'm in the temple of my God. That happens to me.
Sure.
So I had to, you can imagine after all this happened, I had to read back and go think, and it's like, all those things you thought were revelation, get rid of them. Don't even remember. Don't.
She does not care one diddly squat about solving this murder, any of the murders. She only cares about protecting herself and protecting her reputation, which is already shot, girl. Just tell the truth. You were in on the crazy. You were dialed in on the crazy, and you let 2 innocent children get killed because you were too scared to come forward.
I'll go back and try to figure out how many.
You know what? You could do an anonymous tip. You could do an anonymous tip. These crazy people think that people go dark, and then these people suddenly die after they've been told they go dark, or there's an attempt on their life, and then they just suddenly die. So I'm really worried about their children because they're saying that their children are now dark. They're now saying that her ex-husband is now dark. They're now saying that Chad's wife is now dark. You could have anonymously reported this to the local police, and they would have at least done a welfare check, and it might have scared them into not hurting these people. That's what I'm saying.
Father, what happened here? God, I was on your team. And I cried to the Lord. I said, I cheated on you. I broke my heart because I was that absolutely gobsmacked.
I reckon Lori and Melanie did some over-the-clothes action like she did with Chad. She cheated on her. This sounds like... Now, it's just sound... Maybe Lori was playing Melanie too. Maybe there's more there than we actually know. I'm just saying, that cheated on me? Now that I think about it, she really does sound like some kind of scorned lesbian. And I know about scorned lesbians. She really does. She really does sound like a scorned ex-girlfriend to me.
On me. He's cheating. Is he cheating on me?
Now that I think about it. Maybe I'm onto something. I have no proof of that, just a hunch, but she really does come off as now somebody trying to get even with somebody that broke her heart.
Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this.
Just throwing it out there. Everybody else has theories. I'm just throwing that out there as a maybe.
So, with these castings, and the first one you're involved in was at Selena's house, and
I can't remember if they did it that night or the next day, or I don't remember, but it was.
was it still at Selena's house? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, pretty sure.
And that was that just for Charles?
Oh, absolutely, because that's the only person they knew had that issue at the time, according to their pretend revelation. I call it pretend because who knows what it was.
Then why didn't you report when they started saying it about Tylee about JJ, about Tammy, why didn't you report it then anonymously? Because you were in on it. And you were too far into the cult to get yourself to tell the truth. Because you believe this just as they believed it. And now that the everything's come home to roost, the chickens have come home to roost, you're scared. Or you're trying to get even with your ex-girlfriend there.
Describe to me
How they did it? Okay, so they were trying to figure out first how to do it, and so they were all coming up with different ideas, and I wasn't familiar with their vernacular. They would say things like, you know, like Melanie would coin the phrase, probably like some kind of malachite or something after a while, like malachite's a gem. So they thought that gem had powers. You know how like in the chakra world people get into stones and stuff like that? They kind of brought that into that. So they thought that had the power, and then
those malachite rings or the malachite stone.
Well, she eventually got that.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit so that we can get toward, more maybe questioning about Charles and the day that Charles died, and then we will wrap up.
Stupider and stupider the story did, and it just got more crazy. And sometimes I'd go, okay, whatever, and I just kind of blow it off.
Well, now let's back up. So Tylee was deemed dark back in July.
She was deemed dark at some point.
Cast for Tylee.
I do not recall that.
Okay.
But you have been quoted on telephone calls talking about Tylee was dark. Ugh.
But I know at some point she was called dark, and
Who called her dark?
well, probably Chad would tell her, because Chad was the one she would go to. And I remember I said this out loud to you guys. She used to think she got a lot of revelation, but now that Chad's in her life, she just would relies upon him more. So she kind of didn't think she had the power anymore because he seemed to have more power than her.
Do you know at that point in time if there was any tension between Lori and Tylee?
There was always tension.
Was there?
When wasn't tension? I mean, it was from day one that I met her. I walk in the room. I super good with teenagers. Love them. Hi. She's like, if we were each other, I was like, hi, and she didn't even want to look at me, and she was probably thinking one of her friends that she just totally dumps me on. Who knows? But she would never contact me. I did one time try to be affectionate and kind to her, and we were sitting at the table. We're going to California with her friend, and we're sitting at the little that wiener place. I forgot the name of it. Anyway, that fast food restaurant.
Wiener Schnitzel?
Well, not that one. The
Schlotzky's?
Yes, I don't even know how to say it. We were there.
Schlotzky's
That was
Deli.
my favorite place.
I like food.
Yeah. See, she said she was big on food, and now she loved her fast food. If you didn't know that, she did. And so we were sitting there, and I just, just like try to put like Tylee's hair. Women just do that kind of stuff. And I just pulled her hair off, and she was like, meow. You know what I mean? I was like, and I didn't take it personally. I knew her mom was her mom. Like, she had a rough life. I was like, whatever. And I think it upset Lori. That kind of upset her. I was like, you don't need to be upset. But anyway, so she didn't think she was dark at that time. That was another time. That was earlier on.
And I know this stuff, bringing it up, can be kind of embarrassing. To think that I actually bought.
So I'm assuming the majority of the rest of this is her deny knowledge, even though she's reported having said some of this stuff before. So that's Melanie Gibb. Really, I'm not shocked by her behavior, except her behavior has gotten more putrid and more, more outlandish since this goes on. She's just in complete self-defense mode, and I'm going to stand by my theory. I think there was something more going on there. That is the only time I will venture out and say it's just her attitude, the way that her and Tylee didn't get along, the way she was very non-committal about her husband and her book. I think she's afraid to admit maybe feelings she had for Lori. I'm just saying, why, just saying, just a theory. If it turns out to be wrong, I'll take my hits for it, but it's just a gut feeling. And I was actually texting Jen from the L Mom to let her know about my theory. We'll see what she says. Anyway, after seeing this and how defensive she is, this is exactly how somebody acts after they've broken up with somebody and are trying to distance themselves. Oh, I never liked that kind of thing. Just saying. But in any case, she had the ability to save some people, and she didn't. And karma will get her at some point. But in any case, I'll be back soon with Jason Mao's interview, and we'll go from there. And with that being said, until next time, keto and crime.